Alright guys, so we're gonna start running our fuel line. So as you can see, I got the tank in it. The nice thing is everything's starting to look new now, which is good. I pretty much have the main fuel line coming out of the tank right here, so I'll run that up and over. And there's already a spot on the frame where there was a clamp for the line. So I'm just gonna go in the stock location, basically over to it with soft line, and then I'll connect it to the hard line right here. And I'll run the hard line down the frame and up. So, and I think this time I'm gonna go up the firewall instead of going up to the front of the engine, because FEs run notoriously hot and I had vapor locking issues with this car in the past. So yeah, new tank, bunch of new fuel line from Napa. I'm gonna go and run this stuff in. This is one of my least favorite things to do, is run the fuel line, but it's getting there. Of course, I got almost lucky, almost made it to the end in one piece. So I went all the way from the trunk, gas tank back to here, and then I have it going under the body mount and up the firewall. The reason I'm doing that is because the previous guy that did this had it running right in between here. No idea why. So headers are very hot, and then it came through the front of the engine, more heat. So I'm gonna go way down low, you can barely see it. I'm going way down there, all the way down by the transmission, and then coming right up the firewall. So less heat, a little bit less heat. I mean, it's gonna be hot underneath the hood no matter what. There is no avoiding that because this is a big block. So that'll be a little bit better, and then I can just run behind the carburetor. The other reason I'm doing that is it'll look a lot better. I won't see a fuel line coming up towards the front. I won't have that. It'll just come straight back. I can run my fuel line backwards, and you won't see any of that, so that'll be kind of nice. However, I almost got lucky. I made it all the way to the front in one piece, and then I kinked it right here. So it's kind of a bummer. Not really sure how that guy happened, but I got to put an inline filter in it somewhere anyways, so I'm just going to put it down there by the frame. It'll probably be a little bit easier to get to anyways. So I'll go ahead and I'll cut that, and I'll put a soft line in it for right now, and then I can put a filter in, and then I can just bend this and shove it up there. It'll be a lot easier. Everything mocked up for the firewall. So you can see this guy is ready to go on. I'm just waiting for the master cylinder to dry. And then in the back, I made a little bracket for the fuel pump. So one thing you probably noticed as I was plumbing it, you're like, okay, where's the fuel pump gonna go? Am I running mechanical or electronic? The short story is I ran a mechanical in this car and had nothing but problems with it, vapor locking and whatnot. The one thing that I would have to imagine is on these cars, a just generic Napa O'Reilly's brand mechanical fuel pump on this thing is not strong enough to pull fuel from the back of the car to the front. And on a big block FE like this car has, it gets very hot under the hood and it just caused vapor locking issues because it wasn't flowing fuel. It was also a deadheaded system, so that was an issue as well. I'm gonna run a tee-off. I'm gonna run a return line setup so I can constantly have flow coming back to the tank and circulating through the system so it keeps our temps down. But yeah, so right now what I did is I mounted I'm gonna run the same setup that's in all my vehicles basically as a Holly Blue label. These are really great pumps and this is a pusher pump. So basically right off our tank, I'll tee it into here. I don't have any of the fittings right now and this is just kind of held in with screws right now. I'll probably actually just stitch weld this to the floor and then this will hang off and I'll have a ton of rubber on this thing. But the bracket making it hang will reduce pretty much all the noise. You want it to kind of hang so that can basically, any sort of vibrations that it has, it doesn't put back into the car. So the trunk floor is going to be dynamatted and carpeted, so it's going to be all insulated, and then we'll have rubber pieces in between the bracket and the pump itself, and then I'll have a rubber hose going to a fitting here. And then unfortunately I wanted to run it the other way, but the out and the in on this thing is fixed. On the bottom you can see it says out and in right there. So there's our out, there's our in, so I kind of have to follow that. I can't really change it. I was thinking you could reverse the polarity and spin it the other way, but I don't think it works like that. Basically then I'll have a fitting with a rubber hose that goes right up to this fuel line and then goes up to the front of the car. You can kind of see how I have it ran up and over the frame. It kind of transfers over the frame and then runs on the outside of the frame all the way up the car so it doesn't have to get by the exhaust. We'll run some heat shield product on this stuff right here, and then our exhaust, we'll change it all. It'll basically follow this muffler and then it'll come right here. I'll run it below the axle with a removable either V-band or clamp right there, and then I'll basically have it turn around the back tire and go into this pocket and then have a turn down tip kind of at the bumper. So I think that's the best bet, and being I have to kind of go through this area, I need to make sure this fuel line is as high up as it is. We're gonna run some hot rod sleeve from Heat Shield product on this thing to make sure it stays nice and cool. So I made this little fuel pump regulator bracket because I ran it up the firewall. So what this will do is this will basically mount like so, and then I can have it look like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw it in real quick. I haven't actually seen what it's gonna look like. It's probably gonna be a pain to put in, one with the amount of hands I got. Will it actually grab threads is the real question. I did a bubble flare on the end of the fuel line, so I'll cut it, slip it, and then I'll take an eyelet and I drilled a hole right there, and then I'll go ahead and I'll screw them together and they'll sit flush like that and you won't even see it. There's a T right here so I can see my fuel pressure, and I'll be able to run that across the back, throw a 90 and it'll come into the back of the carburetor. You won't see the fuel line at all. Look at that. I built that. So we wrapped up everything on the fuel line, brake master cylinder thing. So I'm pretty happy with the way that came out. I didn't really go over too much. So I basically just made the bracket come off to the side. When you buy a fuel regulator from O'Reilly's, it has a little L bracket that it bolts to whatever you want to mount it to. I welded that to the bracket that I made, so I didn't point that out. So it's literally hanging, so it can kind of move, which is what I wanted, because I didn't want to have to run another bolt through the firewall for no reason. It has plenty of holes in it. I don't want to add more. But now we'll tee off of that and go into the back of the carburetor like I said. I got a couple fuel lines and prop valves to change because we're running a dual pot versus the original single. So I have just a single line. I'm gonna have to cut this up and put a new prop valve in it, which I have right here. So I got this master from my buddy Vic Klotz, so shout out to him if he's watching. I don't know what car it came off of, but this is and fitting line, so it was pretty nice setup whatever you had it on. So you can tell the diameter of these lines are pretty freaking big. So I'm gonna modify this up a little bit and probably tee off so I can run to the front brakes. So I'll have to change that up a little bit. But coming back underneath the car, I basically ran that fuel line down and wrapped it around the body mount, and it comes out down here, which was a really difficult line to bend. Comes out down by the frame, and then I have this. I'm probably gonna change this. This rubs on the frame, I don't like that. But it has an isolator clamp. These clamps make this whole process so much easier. And then it basically follows the brake line to the back of the car. Then we come back where the 4-link bars are, or the front leaf spring mount. So it kind of comes up right above the frame, and then it goes across and up into the inside of the frame rail. Come back up behind the rear wheel, you'll see it basically. So then I have it kind of coming up through the frame and over to here, and then I have my fuel pump right there. So this is all just temporary. I gotta go get fittings and whatnot. Made the bracket, self-tapered that to the floor like I explained earlier. And this will be our full fuel system, so should work pretty well. I'm pretty happy with this. And then we just gotta weld up the 4-link, make some coilover brackets, and we can set this thing back on its own weight. But yeah, I hope you guys went on to enjoy today's video. Hopefully you learned a thing or two, just kind of showing, just kind of letting the camera roll and just kind of building stuff. And you guys pick up points that I do. I think I'm gonna do that on my truck as well. I like how the fuel line runs up the firewall. It came out pretty clean. So, but yeah, like the video if you did enjoy. Let me do your thing down in the comments below. Marty and I are gonna get cracking on this car. We got some more stuff to do. I think I'm gonna start doing the gas door and the taillight panel. That's a really cool special video. We have a full billet gas door for it. So like the video if you did enjoy. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.